Hello, friends. We're glad to see you on a channel where we thoughtfully explore some of the most fascinating questions about science and human consciousness. Today's topic has captured the attention of researchers and millions of people around the world for decades. We're going to talk about what studies of clinical death show scientists, which conclusions have been reached so far, and which questions remain open. Get comfortable, because this isn't just a scientific topic, it's a conversation about a boundary that almost everyone has wondered about at least once. And the more science learns about this state, the more new mysteries seem to appear. Imagine a situation where a person's heart stops beating, breathing ceases, and medical monitors register a critical condition. From a biological perspective, the body is on the edge of irreversible processes. Yet thanks to modern medicine, doctors are sometimes able to bring a person back. And it is precisely after such cases that the questions begin. What does a person experience in those moments? Does the brain continue to function? Why do some people report unusual perceptions? It's important to emphasize right away, in this video we rely on scientific observations and expert perspectives. We are not making sensational claims or stating anything that science has not confirmed. Our goal is to understand how modern researchers approach the study of one of the most complex states the human body can experience. So let's start with the basics. Clinical death is a condition in which the main signs of life temporarily stop, circulation ceases, independent breathing is absent, and the heart is no longer pumping blood. But the key word here is temporary. Unlike biological death, clinical death can sometimes be reversible. If help is provided quickly, the brain may avoid critical damage and the person can be saved. The development of resuscitation medicine has made it increasingly possible for doctors to restore patients to life. What was once considered a final endpoint has, in some cases, become a state from which a person can return. However, alongside this progress, something unexpected emerged. Some people who survive cardiac arrest later describe subjective experiences that seem to occur at a time when the brain was not expected to function normally. Scientists refer to these reports as near-death experiences, or NDEs. Despite differences in culture, age, and life background, many accounts include similar elements: a sense of unusual calm, reduced or absent fear, a feeling of separation from the body, the perception of bright light, a sensation of movement or transition, remarkable mental clarity, and vivid memories. But an important clarification must be made: not everyone reports such experiences. Many people remember absolutely nothing. This alone tells scientists how complex the brain is during critical states. Why did science become interested in this phenomenon at all? A few decades ago, such reports were often placed in the realm of philosophy or personal belief. However, as medicine advanced, it became possible to systematically collect and analyze data. Today, studies are conducted in universities and medical centers around the world. Researchers are trying to answer several key questions. What happens in the brain when the heart stops? Can consciousness remain active longer than previously assumed? And what processes are triggered under extreme conditions? The scientific approach remains rigorous. Conclusions must be based on measurable data and repeatable observations. That is why the topic remains open. There are too many variables and too few opportunities to study these states under fully controlled conditions. So what happens in the brain? The brain is an extraordinarily sensitive organ. Without oxygen, brain cells begin to suffer within minutes. Yet some studies have found that shortly after cardiac arrest, brief bursts of electrical activity can sometimes be detected. Specialists suggest this may reflect the brain attempting to stabilize itself or responding to extreme stress. It is important to stress that scientists have not reached a single explanation, and multiple hypotheses continue to be discussed. Among the possible factors are neurotransmitter activity, protective brain mechanisms, memory processes, medication effects, and the physiological response to oxygen deprivation. Science rarely provides quick answers, especially when dealing with the most complex system known to us. One particularly intriguing aspect is the clarity of these reported experiences. Some researchers note that certain patients describe them as more real than ordinary life. However, the vividness of an experience does not mean its nature is fully understood. The brain is capable of generating extremely convincing states. For example, during dreams, events can feel completely real until we wake up. This is another reason scientists interpret such reports with caution. Can consciousness exist independently from the brain? This is one of the most popular and most difficult questions. At present, there is no scientific confirmation that consciousness can exist without brain activity. Yet a fundamental mystery remains: how do physical processes in neurons give rise to subjective inner experience? This challenge is sometimes called the hard problem of consciousness. We understand much about brain structure and can observe its activity, but why experience exists at all is still debated. Research into critical states simply adds new pieces to this vast scientific puzzle. Why do people's accounts often sound similar? There are several possible explanations. Some scientists believe the brain may activate universal neurobiological mechanisms under extreme stress. Others suggest memory can partially reconstruct experiences after recovery. Cultural expectations may also influence how individuals interpret unusual perceptions. Still, no single hypothesis explains everything, which is why research continues. What does all this tell us about modern science? First and foremost, that science does not shy away from difficult questions. Genuine scientific thinking is built not on absolute certainty, but on curiosity and a willingness to revise models as new evidence emerges. When observations appear that do not fully fit existing theories, scientists do not rush towards sensational conclusions, they investigate more carefully. The history of science shows that many major breakthroughs began as mysteries. Why is it important to discuss this calmly? Topics connected to life and death can easily turn into dramatic headlines. But sensationalism rarely leads to understanding. A careful, respectful, and rational conversation is far more valuable. Studies of clinical death do not overturn biology or prove extraordinary claims, but they do help us better understand the limits of the human body and the capabilities of the brain. And sometimes, they remind us how remarkable the very fact of being alive truly is. What remains unknown? The honest answer is, quite a lot. We still do not fully understand how consciousness arises, where the boundaries of perception lie, what processes unfold in critical states, or why human experiences differ so widely. Yet this is exactly what keeps science alive. Every new question is a step toward deeper understanding. Perhaps the most important takeaway is that research into clinical death is not only about the boundary of life, it is also a reminder of life's value. Many people who go through such events say they begin to see time, relationships, and personal priorities differently. Regardless of scientific interpretation, this psychological effect is well recognized by specialists. Sometimes encountering a limit helps us see what matters most with greater clarity. In closing, the more we study the brain and consciousness, the clearer it becomes that we are facing one of nature's greatest mysteries. Future technologies may allow us to look even deeper, and some answers may turn out very different from what we expect today. Yet the drive to understand the unknown has always moved humanity forward. If you find topics like this interesting, consider supporting the video and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Do you think science is getting closer to understanding consciousness, or are the most important discoveries still ahead? And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming videos about science, consciousness, and the mysteries of reality. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you in the next video.